Somehow, consolidating power returned. Hey everybody, it's good to be back. I'm sorry I've been absent for so long, but it's just been a really hectic couple of months with work. I'm an academic, so I've had a really full plate with research and teaching here at the end of the semester. And as it turns out, it's really hard to edit YouTube videos. It's way more work than I was anticipating, but so I'm not going to really hold myself to any sort of schedule about when I'll produce content, but when I feel like it, I'm going to try and put something out. And I definitely feel like it today because we've just had a lot of great news about Eternal, the new format that I'm very, very excited about in the last couple weeks. And so I'm looking forward to talking about that today, as well as finally breaking down my Chancellor Palpatine deck that I've been running for I don't know, a year and a half now or something, as we get to the end of Premiere for this rotation of Premiere. So, thanks to everybody who supported me this long and for the nice messages that I've received in the intervening months. So let's go ahead and get into it. But first, let me just mention the tournament being put on by Team Nexus, the competitive team that I'm a part of, that's mostly based in the UK, which is the Nexus Invitational, which is a cash tournament being held by our sponsor, Spellbound Games and Elephant and Castle in South London. This has a £1,000 prize pool, and we still have tickets available for the first day. So go ahead and check out Spellbound Games' website and look at the Nexus YouTube channel or Discord where we're going to have more information for you there. But essentially, the first day is an open tournament, and the best players from the first day will make it to day two, where you'll get to battle it out with some of the best players across Europe and the UK for the invitational portion for that £1,000 prize pool, which is split up into the top eight there. So check out the Discord and the Nexus YouTube channel for more information. Cool. So here I'm going to refer to my notes, my written notes, as I do teaching universities. But here I'm just going to kind of ramble about the state of the game in the last few months. I don't really have a script here, just some ideas I want to talk about. Feel free to skip ahead if you don't want to hear this. But the first thing I want to do here is pour one out for my homies, foils. Fantasy Flight has announced that starting with set 7, they're deleting foils from the game. And, if foils had only one fan, it was me, and if it has no fans, I'm dead. I liked foils. I was never a huge fan of hyperspace cards. I know, very hot take, but I just can't stand the white lines on the edges. So now foils are being reduced only to hyperspace foils. So I'm pretty disappointed. I was able to get foils cheap because nobody else likes them but me, apparently, and it doesn't really incentivize me to buy like boxes and stuff now because I don't know. I just if I really want to buy the hyperspace foils, then I'll just buy the couple of cards I need and leave the rest behind. It's a bit disappointing, but I know everybody else on the planet's happy with more of the hyperspace cards. Everyone can flame me in the comments about how much they love the bright white lines on the end of the cards. I'm gonna have to join you because I don't really have a choice anymore. Uh, Following on from Rip Foils is also, rest in peace, the OP frames. Again, I think I'm the only person on the planet who likes the gradient pastel colored organized play frames. I really thought the colors worked really well with the aspects because you had the light blue, for example, with the heroism vigilance, and the dark blue for the villainy vigilance. It really, I thought they were really solid. I get that the non-foil ones didn't look the best, but I think the surge foiling on these, for example, I put hello there here because it's a great meme, and this card is great in the Galactics, which I did run this card in Vegas. I don't know. I'm really gonna miss these. I'm unhappy they're going. I know they're getting replaced with the cooler frame, the sort of regional sector frame, and yeah, it'll be fine. But I don't know. I'm kind of unhappy that they've killed these. Again, if these didn't have any fans, I'd be dead. Um, just briefly, you'll notice there's some non-Star Wars Unlimited cards on the screen here. CD Projekt Red, through another game company that I'm forgetting the name of, I think Weirdco, but don't hold me to that. They are producing a Cyberpunk TCG, and I'm kind of keeping my eye on it because I kind of got my start in card games playing the Netrunner LCG, also produced by Fantasy Flight. and I was a huge fan of that. I used to be obsessed with the cyberpunk kind of theme. I played tons of Netrunner, and while I've kind of grown out of the theme just a little bit, of course, I played the video game. I've seen the anime of Cyberpunk 2077. I was a big fan of the 2020 Cyberpunk 2020, the original RPG from the 80s. And so I'm kind of interested in this TCG. Some of the mechanics are pretty unique, but I just want to say I think the graphic design and the art for this game is like top tier. So, if anyone's interested in seeing some content about this game, let me know in the comments or send me a message. I should say the best place to find me is either through the Nexus Discord, or you can find me. My username is Empires in the Nexus Discord. I'm also in KTOD in the normal Star Wars Unlimited Discords. So yeah, feel free to shoot me a message. But yeah, I'm kind of interested in the Cyberpunk TCG here. If you want to see some content about it, let me know. But I have my eye on it. Maybe I'll do some stuff for it in the future. The final kind of thing I want to ramble about here, though, is the last few months. Another reason, besides being busy in life, is I hadn't been too motivated because I hadn't been feeling great about SWU. Mostly because of the meta. And I don't know if this is a terribly hot take, but I wasn't thrilled with the meta. I just thought it was kind of samey and boring. It was a lot of playing Keller and Beck, essentially, right? Like all the decks kind of centered around Keller and Queen Amidala, this green, white, uh, kind of creamy soup, you know, it just wasn't very engaging gameplay for me. I know there was a couple different decks, and it was fun for some people, and I'm not trying to take that away from you. It was just kind of whatever for me, which is kind of disappointing because I think one of my issues with the game, it's not a major issue. I'm not quitting the game, but one of my issues with the game is just that like B tier decks feel so much worse than like S tier decks. Does that make sense? And maybe I won't really be able to explain myself too much here, but essentially, unless you're not playing a meta deck, it really feels like you cannot compete whatsoever. And I say this having put, as I'm going to talk about, I've probably put close to 1,500 reps into my Chancellor deck over the past year and a half. Um, and I've tried really hard with it, and I love the deck. But it's tough knowing that it's just there's other decks that are just better, right? I know that's the case with every card game, but um, and that's why I felt like the meta sort of feels samey sometimes for me because we're just on such a there's a difference from the S tier to really the next tier down is a substantial step down. So I just hadn't been that excited about Premiere lately. But as we're going to see, Eternal is looking spicy. And not only have I been harping about how much I want to play for the last year, um, I really think that's actually where some of the creativity is going to come from. So let's get into that in just a second here. Oh, Eternal, let's go. So I had it on the next slide here. This is not organized in any way, but let's start in the corner up here. So I have gotten my ticket to the Galactics in Vegas. I think I'm about 95% certain I'm going, but I went ahead and bought the tickets and I was able to sneak in to the 120 player capped Galactic Eternal Open, which I'm very excited about. So come say hi if you see me in Vegas. Um, I've changed my Melee username to Consolidating Power. Previously, it was my actual name, Lucas, or Empires, as my Discord username, but I think I'm going to keep it on Consolidating Power. So come say hi in Vegas if you see me at the Eternal Open. I mean, this is, if I don't qualify for the main event in Vegas, which is kind of looking likely, unless I happen to win some Eternal PQs next set, which they've announced. It's really huge, actually, that there's going to be, it says approximately 10 Eternal PQs next set. I'm going to guess 6 in America, 4 in Europe, something like that. But it's good that we have Eternal PQs, and I'm going to kind of challenge myself, if possible, if the dates can work out. I kind of want to go to every Eternal PQ in Europe if I can manage it. It's probably a bit of a, magical Christmas land there, but you might see me at a more than one, shall we say, if I can get tickets. So yeah, let me know if you're going to be at any Eternal PQs in the comments below, especially when I think we get the dates this upcoming Wednesday. So I'm very excited about that. And if I happen to do well and qualify, I'll be in the main event, of course. But other than that, I'll just be doing Eternal side events, Twin Suns. I'll be doing that all weekend. So come say hi. So I've already talked about the Eternal PQs, and I'm really excited for this, and I really hope we get to see more events actually at regionals and sectors, because even if the main event is premier or limited, I mean, I might just play sides. I just might play side events for Eternal. It's just so much more fun for me. And you can check out some of my older videos where I talk about why I think the idea of Eternal or a legacy style format would be high power and exciting. Maybe some of the videos are a little out of date now, but I think I made some good comments on those if you don't really know what Eternal is or why it could be exciting for you. But essentially, you get to use all the cards that rotate out that are now illegal. You can use all the cards. Um, let's go to the second comment here. So sorry, these two comments on the bottom come from Fantasy Flight's news articles. And this one on the bottom says that they've been testing some Eternal in-house, and of course there's a deck that uses Hera, that uses all the Hera Spectre cards, which of course sounds fun. That's a great thing for Eternal. The not great thing for Eternal is I'll go and read this here. And maybe the developer with the highest win rate in our Eternal games is Ryan Miles, keeping it simple and just playing an upgraded version of Django Fett with classic favorites like Tarkin Town and Triple Dark Raid. Yeah, no wonder that has the highest win rate. I talked about my Eternal tier list that Django I think is like S plus plus for Eternal. I think, keeping with that opinion, he probably is going to need to be banned. I suspect they're not going to ban him out the gate, but we'll give it a month, and I think he probably needs to be banned. And the reason being is I think Django gatekeeps tons of decks. You can't play a force deck, you can't play a pilot deck, you can't play any sort of you know aggro deck. It's he gatekeeps so much that I think he's probably going to need to go. Django specifically. I love Triple Dark Raid. Not really a hot take for those of us in the Triple Dark Raid cults, and I think there's some interesting decks with Triple Dark Raid, and Eternal's kind of the place for these high power decks, but I think Django is just too degenerate, unfortunately, and probably needs to go. So that's a bit worrying for me. But what are these cards in the middle? If you haven't been keeping up, these are cards from the pre-constructed Twin Suns decks. So Twin Suns multiplayer format, kind of like Commander and Magic, a singleton format, non-rotating. You can use any cards from across the game's history in it. They have unique cards in these precons, and I love this. I love this. I love this. In Magic, I'm going to try not to ramble here too much, but essentially, in Magic's high power legacy formats, you could use Twin Suns Commander cards. And the thing about those is they're they're not made for 1v1 formats, right? They're made for, you know, 1v1v1v1. They're made for multiplayer formats, which means the cards are often very powerful and break the games in weird ways. So, for example, there's a card in Magic that was originally printed in Commander. I believe it's called True Name Nemesis. I might have some of the words off there, but essentially what it says is choose a player and they can do nothing to you. Can't do damage to you, can't kill you, can't attack you. And in a four-player game, okay, this person can't attack you, but the other two people can. Well, what happens when you break that over into a 1v1 format? Kind of breaks the game, right? And this is kind of exciting, actually, because it means the game just moves up in power. There's another mechanic, for example, that was from Commander originally that got brought over into Legacy and actually broke the Legacy format in Magic, which was called Enter the Dungeon, which added this really ridiculous kind of Dungeons and Dragons themed thing where you would actually move through a dungeon and get all these rewards. But it was meant to be played in a multiplayer format because everybody could then kind of fight over the dungeon. But no, in a 1v1 format, no, you just go right through and you get billions of rewards that put you insanely ahead, right? So, yeah, I actually like this idea. I know some people aren't going to like this because, oh, why weren't these cards just printed into standard, premier. But I don't know. I think it's good for the game. It means that people are going to want to buy the powerful cards. People are going to go into shops and buy the precons. Like, I think it's a good ecosystem, and that the cards are going to have actual value. Like, I think, for example, fives here, which is a card I'm really excited for. I think fives is certainly going to be valuable. And yeah, when you buy a precon, it's only going to have one of each of those. If you want three fives, you'd have to buy three precons or buy three five singles. But unfortunately, that's the way of the game, and it's better that cards have value rather than the other way around, which unfortunately has been kind of the last year of Star Wars Unlimited, where the cards don't have value. I mean, if you looked how Vader and Luke have plummeted, it's just not good, especially where we have like really weak legendaries in the last few sets. People don't want to buy boxes. If people don't want to buy boxes, stores aren't going to carry boxes. If stores aren't going to carry boxes, then they're not going to host the game. And if people aren't going to host the game, nobody has to play the game. Then people quit the game. It's a whole pretty bad ecosystem, crash there. So I think something like this is very good to encourage people to play Twin Suns, to play Eternal, and have these really powerful cards. So I've just got a couple on here. I think this Assault Lander LAAT is just crazy. It's a 3/5 that for 4 that creates 2 clone troopers and does some damage to itself and enters. That's an awesome card, especially for that Saul Guerrero leader we've seen in set 7. Fives I'm really excited about, which is a 6 cost 6/6 Sentinel that just copies when played abilities, and that will be going in my Chancellor Eternal. Galactic Escalation, a 2 cost ramp. This is what we're looking for, high power cards for Eternal. And then just some of the leaders here, just really exciting. Ahsoka here really has a cool kind of sort of storm, as they would call it in Magic, where you get to play an event and go through your deck and maybe play more events. That's kind of the chaining I'm looking to play with. Count Dooku is just fun. He says make some tokens for free, and I think you can do some fun things with that. Padme gets to attack, do abilities like I think it's Dogfight that allow you to attack on a leader for free. She's really cool, and I think we're going to be able to get all of these showcases for the Twin Suns leaders in Vegas at the Galactic Championship. So my plan is to try and collect all of them. Should be very fun. Okay, so just some shout outs here. We went to the Paris sector qualifier, and here I'm with some of the boys from Team Bendu, some of my good friends back in London. So a big shout out to Kabir, James, and especially Alfie, who made it to day 2. So well done, Alfie. We're all really proud of you. And here we are standing in front of the Chancellor Palpatine, sort of screen, which I insisted upon. And then just another shout out here to the PQ and Idstein, which I played this last weekend here in Germany, just to my friend Sebastian here in Germany, who came in second. He was one of the finalists playing Darth Vader in space, and just crazy run. Really well done, Sebastian, getting a second. And just shout out to, honestly, everybody that I played with in both Paris and in Idstein, not only the guys from Team Nexus, Team Bendu guys here, anyone I had met in Paris. And in Idstein yesterday, a few days ago, there was a great guy playing in round 4, playing Han Tarkentown. I think his name was Rob, and I was just one of the funniest games I had played in a long, long, long time. So yeah, the community is great in this game. If there's anything to say about Star Wars Unlimited, is that you can meet anybody, have a great time with them, even if they're like super high level players. I just chatted to Tibetan from Poland, who was the Galactic champion from last year in Paris, and he's just really really chill guy. Behind us in line was Bobby Sapphire and the KTOD crew. Just I'm glad that this is a great community for Star Wars Unlimited, and I think that's one of the things that'll keep it going for a while. Okay, so let me talk a tiny bit about my list from an experience in the Ichstein PQ from this past weekend. Uh, So I went 4-2, and this is the closest I've been to top 8 with this list. I came 13th. It was a bit disappointing, actually. One of the final games was really incredibly close versus a guy I've played a couple times here in Germany. And he was running Yoda Data Vault. And the game had gone to time, as you might imagine, and we're on the decider on the third game. And he ended up winning it. here, I ended up miscounting because we had a very complex board state going on where I thought I was able to kill him in this turn. We had ran out of time, and in the last 5 minutes, we probably played, no joke, 10 rounds. I mean, we were flying through it. And the I was very stressed and overwhelmed in some ways because I have the head judge of Germany sitting next to me watching the game, and then about all 60 other people at the PQ came to watch our game and stand around us, you know. And it got to the really complex board state was crazy. Like I had a Luke and a space unit, and I think he had a Luke, and his Luke had attacked, and he played Bo-Katan and minused my stuff. I had 15 resources and like an emergency powers in hand, but my stuff was minused. But if I played emergency powers, I could flip and then maybe do exactly enough. But I had miscounted. I thought I could survive another hit from him, so I decided to go for the emergency powers. And then I also had not really taken into account exactly how much the Bo-Katan was lowering me by with the emergency powers and the flip from Palpatine, plus the healing from Luke that was going to attack. There was just a lot going on, and he had exactly enough to kill me with the Bo-Katan on the next turn. So very well played to my opponent. It's just stressful, and I'm trying to take the lessons away here that I need to. If we've gone to time and we're on rounds, just focus on the game, not be distracted by everybody else standing around. Think through all of the plays, and I probably could have at least tied the game. I think. I mean, and there's all the backseat gamers afterwards, like, oh, you could have done this, this, and this, and this, but it was just, it's not that easy when you're in the driver's seat, have 15 resources and 6 cards in hand, and it's just a crazy board state. So, um, this version of the deck, I changed some things last minute. Essentially, I had added Bazine, which I used to run and cut because I was trying to keep the blue consistency of the deck high. And yeah, it was a mistake to put back in Bazine. She was pretty low impact all day. I didn't love drawing her, even we could smuggle her out. And I think that was incorrect. I want to go back to the second long pike and the extra emergency powers. So let's actually take a look at what I might call my final list for sets 3 to 6 Premiere. I'm saying goodbye to the Premiere version of my boy, Chancellor Palpatine Blue. And we'll see him in Eternal. So let's take a look at that final list, and I can talk you guys through how I play the deck. So, let's if maybe I can do a specific video where I really talk about play patterns. If you're interested in that, please let me know. But I guess I want to focus on a few key cards here. The first of the key cards is actually I want to talk about turn one plays. And as long as I can remember, I've run pretty much 12 turn one plays, and I've actually upped to 13 because missing a turn one is really rough in this deck. The 13th being one copy of Covering the Wing. It makes you an X-Wing in space, that's great, and you can put some shields on later in the game. You have a little secret line here where you can actually reset your Darth Vader with Covering the Wing because you can put shields on opponents' units with Covering the Wing. That's very exciting. Queel is the GOAT, except when he discards Sheehan Flurry, which he does every single time. So if you're going to play this deck, keep that in mind that he will discard Sheehan Flurry, despite you having 90% blue cards. You'll notice Cassian Andor in here. I had run Cassian Andor a bit in some of my other versions of the list, and I switched it to Hera again because I wanted to have the ability to do some space aggro by putting Hera on a Restored Arc or the Red Squadron. Cassian had come in because Cad Bane was a pretty bad matchup for this deck. And with Cassian, he can soak up all of the damage. I had ended up cutting him because I hadn't seen Cad Bane in weeks. And then, of course, I have played 2 Cad Banes this past weekend. So he's coming back in, and I think he's here to stay. I really like Cassian because not only does he soak up damage, but you can choose when to trade him in, which I think is a strong thing for this deck. The other thing is that he holds emergency powers very well. It's pretty hard to deal with him, I think, once emergency powers is online, at least through board combat. After this weekend, I've added 1 tech. I feel like I've needed it in some of the more controlling matchups. It's just one copy of it, and I know it's not a blue card here, but I think 4 non-blues with the 3 Sheehan Flurries and the 1 tech is enough to get me there. You'll notice the Red Squadron and the Yodas. These have come in and out throughout time, trying different types of removal and stuff, and I think You just need to resign yourself to the fact that you need to be drawing as many cards as possible with this deck. You just need to draw the cards, you need to draw your whites and your blacks, and you especially need to find your Shein Flurries. So drawing cards is good. And tech is just going to help a little bit with the more grindier matchups or that super laser blast that you resource turn one and think you'll draw another and you never do. Let's see. Childson, I love Childson. I've tried so many versions of the deck where I cut Childson and try to run more yellows, or I try to run maybe the yellow-red version of this deck. And I think if you are not dropping, I'm sorry, if you're not aiming to play Childson in this deck as a 6/6, um, you probably shouldn't run the deck. And I think the synergy between Queel and Childson is so strong, along with all of your flipping, your healing, your drawing, your damage, your clones. I mean, that's the name of this deck. Is it's a soft control deck where you're playing bigger and bigger threats, you're drawing billions of cards, and you're healing tons of damage. It's so much fun. And Childson to me is a really key cornerstone of it. I have been looking for something to replace him with so I can run some of these more fun yellow cards. I've been looking at Darth Treya and Krea's Whispers, not only for the Knights of the Old Republic theming, but Treya's kind of cool. He gives you double flips. She's just kind of really slow. Shein Flurry helps her a little bit, but I don't think it's worth cutting at Childson, unfortunately. So you have to keep your blue consistency very high in the deck for Queel and Childson to trigger. Um, if you don't care about that, that's fine. You can run stuff like Geonosis Patrol Fighter. It's a good card. I had that in the sideboard for a while. The new Ebon Hawk is always this close to being in the deck. Ebon Hawk is a really good aggro piece if you want to sort of turn the corner and be more aggro-y. But I just think it's easily answerable, unfortunately. But in this deck, you can really control space with it. Not a bad thing. But I just don't like making my blue count so low. Um, Anakin and Darth Vader, the number one and two to play this deck in the format. I mean, I think Anakin is one of the easiest um, triggers of both white and black out of all decks available. Is the Chancellor Palpatine version. Luke, it's a good card. Play it. The only thing is, I actually don't know if you need three, but it's really hard to cut that third one. But he gets resourced probably in the first 4 turns of the game. Super Laser Blasts, I used to go down to two. You just can't go up to three. And then some top end. Avenger had actually been cut from the deck for a while, and I brought it back in, and it's a good card, but I think you only need one. Bo-Katan, similar reason. It's a great finisher. It gets tons of value. If it can stick for more than one turn, I think you just win. And you'll find the other Avenger and the other Bo-Katan in the sideboard. Let's talk a tiny bit about the sideboard. One thing I really wish I had this weekend was some more Sentinels, and I ran this Obi-Wan at the Galactics, and it's a good card provided you don't play it into any blue-black deck. And so I have an Obi-Wan here for the sideboard. I like it. You can Shein Flurry it out and still block some hits, and then buff up your Anakin. Um, Grand Moff Tarkin is a new ad, and unfortunately, he's replaced Cad Bane. I used to like Cad Bane in the space matchups and aggro matchups, but the problem is that all these are running like bounce effects or just easy ways to kill Cad Bane, like Timely Wrecker, ECL Wrecker. Um, so Tarkin's main goal here, other reason I was running Cad Bane, sorry, is to capture stuff like Relentless. And Grand Moff Tarkin here is not only going to be able to take something big like Clone Combat Squadron, a buffed Falcon is what I used it for this weekend, but also to take the Relentless. It's another out to Relentless. Take a big Devastator. I really like Grand Moff Tarkin in this deck. 3 EMPs, actually. I used to run this back in my Emperor Palpatine days, and this has just been a really good card. A 1-cost interaction, 2 damage and tap, especially to deal with space stuff, especially to deal with pilots. I really like the card. I think it's worth running. You should try it out. And then the final thing I had added here, the most recent change, if I go back quickly, you'll see I had Bamboozles. Bamboozle hasn't unfortunately done very much, even versus pilots. Like on paper, I think it's good, of course, but I think I want something more like No Good to Me Dead, where you can punish something like Han when he deploys, and then if you keep him tapped down for 2 turns, you might be able to keep him around long enough to Shein Vader. So I think the No Good to Me Deads are here for now, but you could run something like Frozen and Carbonite, or any other sort of interactive removal there. The other thing is that I used to run more discard in the deck. Spark Rebellions, Bazine, of course. You could maybe run Jam Communications. These are all fine, but as I'm learning, it's the one for one removal, even if it's targeted discard, I think is really only going to work for you if you have a mass of it. I think I could run a version of this deck that was like 3 Bazine, 3 Garandan, 3 Ahsoka, 3 Sparker Rebellions, 3 Kira. You could run a really degenerate like hand control version, but for me, the Queel Childson is the centerpiece. And if I'm just gonna run some singleton hand disruption, I'm not that interested in it. The other alternative is to maybe run some stuff like Galen or Regional Governor. Those I'm a little more interested in, but it's just tough to find the space, and it's tough to figure out what to call. I'm kind of scared of that. But I think Galen might make it into my Eternal version for sure. So, let me know if you want a sort of detailed kind of play pattern analysis of this deck. I'd probably need to spend some time on it in a different video entirely. But it's a great deck. Draw a billion cards, heal lots of damage, play big bombs, do some controlling. Uh, what more could you want with the greatest character in Star Wars? I mean, this deck was made for me. I'm gonna play this in the Eternal tournaments, unless of course I play Django just to get him banned. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys play against me when I'm running my boy the Chancellor. So we're gonna go ahead and end the video here, but what's next is of course Eternal cards. Now I just put up some cards I'm interested in trying with my new Chancellor Eternal version. I mentioned fives earlier, who you can just slam this after you have Anakin out and play another Anakin with Sentinel, or you could play an Avenger, Bo-Katan. You could play Childson with it, which I think is hysterical, and make a 10-10 fives. I really like fives. I'm also really liking The Stranger. I was on a big cope train about, oh, FFG isn't going to print me a good blue, black, yellow unit. Well, they did. And I don't know if The Stranger's a three of, but he's a really nice kind of gap closer where normally I was playing something like No Glory. The Stranger, I think, is going to come in there, remove something, and be a really nice threat. And then I'm going to test out this base Alliance Outpost. I think the fact that you can guarantee a flip, for example, like especially if they dodge to space or something, you can sacrifice your clone on the ground and flip, and then make a credit. You can run some stuff like covering the wings to sacrifice your X-wing on turn one, flip, draw. Then you have a credit. Turn two, you can play Childson. These are lines I'm really excited about. Um, so I might be doing an Eternal Chancellor breakdown. I might be doing some other kind of Eternal deck techs and breakdowns. And speaking of which, I'm going to have a special guest from my boy, one of my boys, should I say, in Team Bendu, who's going to talk about one of his favorite decks, which is Gar Saxon ECL. And so we'll invite him on here, and hopefully in a few weeks, and we'll discuss what would make Gar Saxon fantastic in Eternal. And I think there's some good things to look out for. I didn't mean for my editing here to show Gar Saxon summarily executing Bendu, but what can you do? So with that, thanks so much if you watched the whole video. Please leave a comment. It would really help me out, and I look forward to responding to you guys in the future. And I'm glad to be back on the wagon, more or less, and excited about the game, especially the future of Star Wars Unlimited in Eternal. So I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks very much.